Welcome back to another video. My name is Sabrina and today we're going to design a bodycon dress with ruching on the sides. I've seen this dress from Instagram to Pinterest and I just wanted to give it a try, so let's get started. The fabric I chose was a 1x1 rib knit, and what I love about rib knits is they don't curl, and specifically with this fabric it's more on the heavier side and it's very opaque, so you don't have to worry about anything being seen through. We want to start off with the dress that already fits us well, so here I just grabbed a bodycon dress and we're going to use this as our starting block to make the actual pattern. In total, we'll trace the front of the dress, the back of the dress, and then we're going to pattern make 2 side panels and the drawstrings. So now we're going to fold our paper in half as well as the dress, make sure it's laying flat, and now it's time to trace. I recommend getting a tracing rule. It's just easier to mark up your patterns, and this is a great start to learn how to actually pattern make. As you can see, I wanted a more boxier fit, so I'm adding a 2-inch line from the shoulder seam and connecting that line to the underarm seam. Since we've traced the front and the back bodice, we can now go ahead and outline the entire pattern. Now that we've traced our pattern, we're now going to add seam allowance. When it comes to knit fabrics, a 4th seam allowance is usually utilized, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm adding a 4th seam allowance to the neckline, the shoulder seam, and the side seams. So for all patterns, we want to add a grain line, and what a grain line does, it's the direction in which we place our pattern on the fabric. So here for the front and back bodices, we are going to make a vertical grain line. Now it's time to make the side panel, and these panels are going to be sewn inside of the dress, and this is a very important piece because this is what's going to actually make the ruching. For this panel, I drafted 23 inches long and 1.5 inches wide. When drafting the drawstrings, we want them longer than the side seam, so I made the drawstrings about 27 inches long and 1/2 inch wide. Now we can transfer our patterns to the fabric. You can either trace the patterns onto the fabric or you can pin it. I want to utilize as much space as possible to reduce waste, so just place your patterns as close as you can and make sure to follow the direction of the grain line. Sometimes when I use regular scissors, I tend to make jagged lines, so I'm just going to go in with my rotary blade to make sure I get the sharpest cut as possible. So in total, we're cutting 1 front bodice, 1 back bodice, 2 side panels, and 4 drawstrings. So with your front bodice and your back bodice, you want to flip them right sides together, and we're going to sew the side seams and the shoulder seams. Here I'm using an overlock machine. You can definitely use a regular sewing machine and just use the zigzag stitch. And also, since this rib knit does not curl, the inside of your dress will still look pretty clean. After trying on the dress, I noticed that the neck was too high and the armhole needed to be scooped out a little bit. So what we're doing is taking 1/2 inch from the front neck drop, and for the back neck drop, we're going to take off 1/2 inch as well. Now that we've made the proper adjustments, we can now sew the side panel. And here I'm just overlocking both sides of the side panel. And again, if you have a regular machine only, you can definitely use the zigzag stitch, or you don't have to clean finish it at all. After we overlock the sides, we are going to tack it on to the inside of our dress. For the ruching effect, I did take my regular sewing machine and I sewed a regular single needle lock stitch down the middle, and I tacked both sides as well to make a tunnel for the drawstrings. For the drawstrings, I ironed them in half and I overlocked the sides. But if you want to clean finish them, you can definitely do that. After we have our drawstrings made, now we're going to take a safety pin and we're going to pin the ends of the drawstring. Now we're going to feed the drawstring inside one of the tunnels. So we want to pull the fabric towards us as well as the pin. So as you can see, I'm just pulling the pin and the fabric as I go. So here's the overall look of the ruching effect. And if you notice, there's tiny holes in the fabric because I'm a perfectionist and I needed the stitching to be very straight, but just be careful with that. I wanted a more edgier look, so I overlocked the armhole and I set the neckline with a double needle cover stitch. So I tried on the overall dress, and as you can see, there's extra fabric in the back. So what I did, I made fisheye darts and I created a center back seam, and this really helped with the fit. Here's the finished product. I absolutely love how this came out, and I'm excited to come out with more design content.